You are listening to One Nation Under Crime, a chronological true crime podcast. Each week, we go through our nation's history and discuss one case from each year, starting in 1800. I'm Kayla.
And I'm Leah.
Episode 12. We've made it.
Woohoo!
It's crazy. We just keep going.
I mean,
Just keep going. Just keep
It's like the Energizer Bunny,
keep going along.
but much cuter.
You know, you always think of those like older commercials and like ones that we used to hear or see all the time that are just gone now that used to be so good.
And
Like-
people don't know what you're talking about.
Like-
Yeah.
The Budweiser frogs.
Bud. Bud.
Why?
Sir. Bud. Why?
Sir? Such good commercials. Anyways, and my boyfriend, he doesn't have cable, so he has just like different streaming services. Well, he's not used to watching commercials anymore.
Oh.
And so the other day he was watching cable and he was watching commercials and he was like, do they literally just show the same 4 commercials every episode break? I was like, pretty much. That's about what they do.
That's funny.
So this week we are in 1810.
I thought we were in 1810 last week because it
No,
was the
ma'am.
11th episode.
We did 2 episodes before, so no, we're off by 1. 1809 was last week.
Okay, I'll hush.
We just recorded 1809, ma'am.
Well, then we had a whole debacle of Fletcher wanting him a lap, not wanting him a lap. I did everything he asked.
It's a whole ordeal. There's a vendetta going on in the house now.
He's a diva.
So this week we are in 1810, and our case for this week is the Amish Murder Mystery.
Ooh.
So it's an interesting one. I'll go ahead and put in here. This is a crime that does involve a very small child.
Mm.
It is a very, very, very quick description of what happens because I don't want to get down into details of that. But if that's not something you want to hear, you can skip forward from that. I will let y'all know, but it does involve that. So, our sources for this week, we have the Amish Country Insider, the Times Reporter, a book called Amish Roots, a Treasury of History, Wisdom, and Lore, edited by John A. Hostetler, and the other book is called Descendants of Jacob Hochstetler, The Immigrant of 1736 by Harvey Hostetler. I'll go ahead and say now, at some point, Hochstetler became Hostetler. They are all related.
I had a 4th grade teacher whose name was Hostetler.
Interesting.
There you go.
Weird names. Let's go into the events in 1810, shall we?
Let's do it.
January 19th was called Cold Friday, and the temperature in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, dropped from 54 degrees to negative 12
Brrr.
in one day.
That just makes me hurt.
And several people that were in that area died
Yeah, I would think.
that day.
I mean, that's cold. I mean, I do like cold weather. I prefer cold weather to hot weather any day. I mean, I do like the beach. The beach is like my favorite place to be. I will say that. But I love cold weather. I like the briskness of it. And I do have naturally frizzy hair. And my hair looks better in cold weather than in warm weather, I will say.
I do love cold weather, but negative 12, that's a little cold.
It's a bit much.
That's excessive.
It's a bit much.
Mhm.
So February 1st, the African Insurance Company opened in Philadelphia, and it is the first insurance company managed by African Americans.
it was called the African Insurance Company?
The African Insurance Company.
Huh. Is it still in operation today, I wonder?
Don't know.
Curious.
Wasn't part of our case.
I'm just curious.
So February 28th, the first U.S. fire insurance joint stock company was organized in Philadelphia. So a lot of insurance starting in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Let's see. March 6th, Illinois passed the first state vaccination legislation in the U.S. Seems very timely for right now.
What was the vaccination for?
Didn't say.
Oh.
May 1st, Macon's Bill number 2 became law, which was supposed to motivate Britain and France to stop seizing American vessels during the Napoleonic Wars. June 4th, the Society in Dedham for Apprehending Horse Thieves was founded in Dedham, Massachusetts. We specifically discussed Dedham, Massachusetts in episode 2.
I was going to say, that sounds familiar.
Yes. June 23rd, Jacob John Astor organized the Pacific Fur Company in Astoria, Oregon. We did talk about him as part of the events in another episode, but in that episode, he founded the American Fur Company. This is the Pacific Fur Company. October 27th, the U.S. annexed West Florida from Spain. And as we discussed in the last episode, it's always good to kind of see how people were born, where they were born in each year. So fun fact for...
I mean, we kind of know how they were born.
Well, when, I suppose. You don't know how. They could have hatched. So for this year, P.T. Barnum.
This is the greatest show. You're welcome.
He was born on July 5th. That makes him a Cancer. He's a fellow Cancerian. Just saying. Look, I saw it and I was like, oh, look at him. Makes sense. He's a visionary. Much like myself. So we're going to get into our story this week. So March 4th of 1810, Susan Hochstetler, the infant daughter of John and Magdalena Hochstetler, is found dead. It would be 50 years before her murderer would confess to the crime.
The infant daughter?
Infant daughter.
Like how infant?
7 months old.
Oh, how sad.
Yes.
What was her name?
Susan.
Oh.
So this week, our case is in Somerset County, located in the southwest region of Pennsylvania. It was founded in 1795 and named after the town of Somersetshire in England. We don't have a listener there yet, but hello. Originally, the southwest region was a large area called Cumberland County, but as the population increased, the area had to be divided into smaller counties. George Washington went through the area on a scouting expedition in 1753 before the French and Indian War. After this, Forbes Road was built through the county, which is 200 miles long, and went from Pittsburgh to Carlisle, Pennsylvania. This road was one of the main western land routes created that became a supply line to bring goods from the eastern side of the state, over to the west to then go out westward and out westward into the country. It wasn't long before fur trappers and hunters settled in the region to create a permanent settlement, which is still known as Turkeyfoot.
Turkeyfoot. I'm from Turkeyfoot.
Unfortunately,
we're the most prominent family in Turkeyfoot.
That would be fancy. I have to bring it down for a moment.
Oh,
and
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm going to briefly go through it. we've discussed this before, but anyways, unfortunately, Somerset County became part of one of the most tragic events in U.S. history. United Airlines Flight 93 crashed in Stony Creek Township near Shanksville on September 11th, 2001. It has been assumed that Washington, D.C. was likely the target for the terrorists aboard the flight. They likely would have succeeded if it weren't for the passengers and crew. The Flight 93 National Memorial was placed at the crash site and is protected and cared for by the National Park System. Just under a year later, from July 24th to July 28th of 2002, the county gained worldwide attention again when coal miners were rescued several hundred feet underground at the Q Creek mine. All 9 members were successfully rescued after being trapped for over 77 hours.
I remember both of those.
That is how Somerset County gained its worldwide and national attention. Yes, unfortunately, that United Airlines flight crash did go down there, but it was thanks to the brave people who were on that flight who did overtake the terrorists.
What was the guy's name? It was Todd, something that said, "Let's roll." And that was like the last thing that his wife heard. That was like his.
Yes, I'm not sure if it was this flight because there was another United Airlines flight. The other airlines flight is the Hey Jules phone call.
No, it was the one in Pennsylvania.
Okay, so then yeah, it would have been this one.
Yeah, they're the ones, they took it down before it was able to reach their target. And his first name was Todd, and I can't remember his last name. But he said, "Let's roll," and that's the last thing his wife remembered hearing.
Todd Beamer.
That's it. Look at me remembering things.
Yep, I just looked him up. He was 32.
Yeah.
And yes, it was that flight.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it funny the things you remember?
So yes, his name was Todd Beamer, and that was the United Airlines Flight 93. He did try to place a call through an airphone, but was routed to a customer service representative instead, who passed him on to Supervisor Lisa Jefferson. Beamer reported that one passenger had been killed and that a flight attendant had told him that both the pilot and co-pilot had been forced from the cockpit and may have been injured. He was also on the phone when the plane made a quick and violent turn. Later, he told the operator that some of the other passengers were planning to attack the hijackers and regain control of the aircraft after they learned what happened to the World Trade Center and at the Pentagon. According to Jefferson, Beamer's last audible words were, "Are you ready? Okay, let's roll."
There you go.
So that was him. Ugh. I hate talking about it. I was like, I read it and I got chills again. I was like, I can't. Guys, 9/11's, it's real emotional for me.
It is.
It's real emotional.
Well, I mean, if you lived through it, especially, I mean,
yeah. And I think we talked about that in our. We talked about it in our 2-part. I don't remember if it was the first or the second, but I believe it was the first.
I was teaching in my first teaching job when it happened.
I think you
were in school.
I was in 5th grade. But yeah, it's very sad, but yeah, it's part of our history.
It is. And it's an important part that we need to remember.
It is. So our case this week is coined by many as the Amish Murder Mystery. So while researching, I actually found some information on the Somerset Amish settlement. This is the second oldest Amish settlement that still exists today.
That's cool.
It was founded in 1772 by Amish from the Northkill Amish settlement in Berks County, Pennsylvania. The Northkill, I think it says Northkill. I don't know how you say it, but I don't like saying North. I don't know. Maybe Northkill.
Spell it?
Northkill.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I also think it could be one of those things that you look at and it's not said how it looks.
Like
I don't know.
Northkill?
Yeah, like Edinburgh.
Exactly.
So,
thank you for saying it correctly.
You're welcome. The Northkill Amish settlement was the first in North America, and it was the largest until the 1780s. the Northkill community started to move, people who were in that community started to move away to find better farmland. And the main places that they moved were Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and Somerset County. The Lancaster Amish settlement was formed at the same time that Somerset was.
Lancaster, I've heard of.
Yeah. I think a lot of people mostly have heard of Lancaster. So, yeah. The Somerset Amish became kind of the main gateway for Amish settlers to move to the Midwest. Today, the settlement is home to only 7 church districts, and the settlement does hold service on Sundays at the meeting house. Most other people who are considered, quote, old order Amish only practice worship in their homes.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. This is also just as good a time as any to quickly discuss the Amish as a group, kind of religion, just in general. For those who don't know a lot about it, we're just going to quickly go through it. This is an episode, guys. Y'all are going to learn a lot about different Amish things that are going on, just because we will kind of get into Amish politics per se as to how some things go. So if you are Amish, were Amish, know someone who is Amish, and I get something wrong, I apologize. I was just trying to see what I could find, and I know that it's a very complex religion. There are different branches to it. So this is not necessarily a representation of all of them singularly. The Amish are a group of traditionalist Christian church fellowships with Swiss, German, and Alstein Anabaptist origins. It's similar to the Mennonite church, but it's very, very important to note that it is not the same. Mennonite and Amish are not the same, even though they could appear the same.
Similar.
Right. When you think of the Amish, the same kind of image appears in everyone's mind. It's plain clothing, a simple or primitive living, Christian pacifism, and not quick to jump on to new technology. Christian pacifism and Anabaptists are both known for their nonviolent tendencies, which will come into play in today's case. Which honestly, for a bit, I thought that the whole technology standpoint was a little weird until I read about this, and it makes a whole lot of sense when you think about it, because the Amish are committed to family, and technology can get in the way of time that you spend with your family, aka a podcast. Hello. They also value face-to-face conversations, and they want to be self-sufficient, which also isn't a bad idea. I mean, just like side note, my boyfriend he cooks a lot, and he's a very, very good cook. Well,
So I hear.
yes, he's great. And one of the things that he knows to cook is he knows bread. And he always said that the one thing that he wanted to teach me to make was bread, because he said, I'll never stand in a bread line. It was kind of when everything was going on in South America and in different countries, and people were standing in line, having to wait for supplies and stuff like that. And he said that he watched it, and he said, I'll never do that. I'll never stand in it. Like, I want to be self-sufficient on my own to where I never have to do that.
Okay.
And so he knows how to make bread. He knows how to make several different kinds of bread. He also knows how to make pasta, and we've done that. And if you've never had homemade pasta, it is amazing, and all other pasta is inferior. So the most notable states with an Amish population in the United States are Wisconsin, Michigan, New York, Missouri, and Kentucky. And the states with by far the largest populations are Indiana, Ohio, and Pennsylvania.
Yeah, when you didn't say Pennsylvania in that first group, I went,
the second group are the largest populations, and the others are just notable states that there are Amish communities in.
Gotcha.
So like I said before, I want to go ahead and warn you that the death this week does deal with an infant. I will not go into deep detail, and the description is just a few seconds long. With this case, it is one that we will start with the murder and then go through the aftermath of what happens. So John and Magdalena Hochstetler were an Amish couple who lived on an old farm in Somerset County. It was evening time on March 4th, 1810, when John left the house to go to the sugar camp. Yes, a sugar camp.
Oh, I kind of raised my eyebrows, and she knew that was a question.
So, a sugar camp is a location near or in a maple forest or orchard where the sap from trees is located to then make into sugar.
Okay, gotcha.
The camp was only about 70 to 80 yards away from the Hochstetler homestead. It was at this time that Magdalena and her sister Barbara Lehman, it's apparently important to note that she was unmarried. That does come into account later. The two women went to check on Susan, the 7-month-old daughter of John and Magdalena. Susan was asleep in her cradle. Magdalena covered her with a feather blanket and used homemade tape. Don't know what homemade tape is, but it said homemade tape to secure the cradle. So, because the cradle has little rockers on the side, so they used a piece of tape to prevent it from rocking. Okay. The two women then left the home and went to join John at the sugar camp. There isn't an exact time for when John or the women left, but it is noted that John left an hour after nightfall. Now, you know that I have to know. So according to Google, nightfall or dusk on March 14th of 1810 in Philadelphia was 6:26 p.m.
Okay, so pause for a second.
Hold on.
Okay.
I know where you're going. Hold on. So it's safe to speculate that John left around 7:30 to go to the camp and the women at 8. It is very important to construct this timeline because it is very bizarre. Go ahead.
Didn't they have somehow to carry the baby with them even though they were going to be working? They left the baby all alone up in the house.
I will continue.
Okay. I mean, I'm just saying the Native Americans, because that's what we call them now, they had papooses. There were ways to carry your baby with you. Okay, continue.
Which is why I wanted to put this information in here because it bothered me.
It bothers me.
It's important and this actually deals with sugar harvesting.
And there are neighbors too. Okay.
True. This deals with sugar harvesting and I had questions. This is why this information comes in and it is important. The common time of the year to harvest maple sugar is March and April. So this was at the beginning of March. It is the perfect time of the year for collecting maple sugar because the temperature is above freezing during the day and below at night. From what I can tell, this allows the sap to warm slightly during the day and flow more easily. And then at night, when the temp drops, it would harden and it would be easier to harvest when it was hardened.
Okay.
The reason I had to know about this is because it was not until 2 a.m. that they all arrived back at the house. The tape that helped keep the cradle in place was broken, turned over, and Susan was not in it.
Oh.
Here,
that baby had been
2 a.m.
Oh my.
We are not here to victim blame.
No, I'm not victim blaming.
It is an odd situation. It is an odd. It bothers me. Yes.
Was that the norm to do?
I don't know.
I need to know.
So,
I need to find out. I need an expert on
which
Amish
is why I looked
to
up.
Let me know.
Right, which is why I looked up sugar harvesting. Like, why are they going at night?
Right.
Like, I thought that was very weird.
But I need to know, like, from an expert on Amish customs, like child rearing and such, to let me know. I have read a lot of books that were set in Amish communities, but more modern Amish communities. But I mean, like, the communities help each other raise the kids. So I need someone to let me know about child raising and rearing. Like, what
I
is
think
the norm?
that at this time, their child. I have a hard time with this. But I think the main logic behind it is typically by 7 months old, your child is sleeping through the night. I was very lucky, and my daughter slept through the night starting at like 10 weeks old. I'm aware I'm lucky. I'm sorry. Do not hate me, other moms who are out there and your children are not. I love you. I feel for you. I'm with you. It is terrible. I enjoy my sleep.
But here's the other thing to me. I don't have children. I enjoy my sleep way too much. I love children. I love children very much. And I have nieces and nephews and surrogate nieces and nephews that come visit me, and I love on them and I play with them, and then I send them home and I sleep. But they could have had a way even to bring the child with them and let the child sleep with, while they were working even.
I guess it was cold. I don't know.
My thoughts.
I don't know.
My thoughts. I'm sorry. These are just my thoughts.
Yes. Same things I was thinking while researching.
It just bothers me.
So
okay, continue.
Here is a small trigger warning for the murder aspect of this case. It does involve an infant, and if you want to skip ahead a few seconds, you can do that now, because I'm about to start. So go ahead and skip now. They all frantically searched the house and finally found Susan. She was found under a mattress, and it was inferred that she was murdered by placing the mattress on her until she suffocated, and that's it. That's as far as I'm going to go into any description of it. That's it.
Dear.
So that's how she was found. So here's where we need to discuss Solomon Hochstetler.
Who's that?
He was the brother of John, and he was a witch doctor. Not what you would think. Some might also call him a faith healer.
Oh, my.
He was a type of doctor who treated those whose sickness was caused by witchcraft.
Oh, no.
So someone curses you, witch doctor. Voodoo or hoodoo, witch doctor. Hangnail, witch doctor. Personally, hangnail, it could be work of the devil. We don't know.
Hangnail.
Yeah, so
Right.
you clearly do not need a photo lineup to see who the black sheep in this family was.
Obviously, it was John.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Solomon, poor guy. Solomon lived about 2 miles away from his brother John's farm. Solomon was known for heavily drinking, and he had never been baptized in the Amish church.
Now, question about the Amish church, because I really don't know about this one. Is this one that that you make the decision to be baptized when you are older? Like, this is the one that you have is it Rumspringer?
We're going to go into that now.
Oh, look at me.
So I tried to do some research on not being baptized into the Amish church, and I couldn't find any consequences per se for not being baptized. But the Amish do believe in adult baptism.
Okay.
They believe that following religious practices should be a voluntary adult decision.
Okay, so it's not a sprinkle at birth.
This is where Rumspringa kind of comes in from what I understood.
Look at me.
Mm-hmm. Because they want baptism to be a voluntary decision, they have Rumspringa. It's said and spelled. It's either Rumspringa. It's said and spelled very different ways, depending. So we're going to go with Rumspringa. This is a period of time where Amish, typically teens, depending on what type of Amish they are. So there's one group of Amish who do not do Rumspringa until their children are about 17 to 21. Then there is another group that it's about 14 to 16. It depends on the area that they're in, the type of Amish it is.
Did you ever see the show Breaking Amish?
Yes.
Okay, continue.
Of course I did. It's like, this is a great concept. I am watching this. I have to watch all of it. That and the Amish Mafia. I watched the Amish Mafia too, and that was great.
One of the very few reality shows that I ever watched. I mean, it was so scripted. It was so horrible.
Loved the Amish Mafia.
I really did.
It was great.
I didn't watch Amish Mafia. I just watched the
Amish Mafia was fantastic. This period of time is when Amish teens are allowed to live outside of Amish restrictions and see what, quote, English life is like. So anything outside of the Amish community is considered English life. When Rumspringa is over is when they typically make their decision to either be baptized fully into the Amish faith, not be baptized, but still follow Amish practices until they are ready to be baptized, or not at all, or they choose to leave the community altogether. If you look at the statistics, the Amish have a 90 to 95 retention rate. So only about 5 to 10% of those raised in Amish communities decide to leave and live with the English. So pretty high rates as far as staying in the community.
Well, it's probably very overwhelming to leave.
That's what I would think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To leave the community and, go into this big world with all kinds of craziness going on.
Yeah, it's a lot. I did read in a few places that for some Amish parents, it's kind of like a badge of honor for all of their children to choose baptism.
Well, sure it is.
From all of this, it doesn't seem like Solomon would be shunned or excommunicated for not being baptized.
Because he stayed in the community.
It's just kind of frowned upon.
Sure.
At this point in the 1800s, it's not like a bad thing to not be baptized. And like I said, in the 1800s at this point, I don't know about current standards.
Sure.
It's not bad to not be baptized, but you are kind of seen as lesser than because you didn't become baptized. Again, not today. I don't know about that. For those who don't know about shunning or excommunication, kind of at its core, it's essentially when the church turns its back on you and refuses any contact and emotionally distance themselves from you. Where this can be difficult is if a child is shunned and the parent was baptized. So the parent made the commitment to follow Amish practices, and this means that they would be obligated to shun their own child, from what I understand.
Yes.
But if you were baptized and leave the Amish, then you will be or risk getting shunned. Because when you got baptized, you made a lifelong commitment to the church and you are breaking that commitment.
Right.
However, if you do not get baptized and choose to leave, I think maybe you're still welcomed back.
That I don't know.
I think that the main shunning aspect comes when you do baptize and then leave. That's that seems to be like a big deal for them.
I think if you choose to leave and not get baptized and you choose to leave, I think that you're shunned as well because you choose to.
From everything
not.
I saw, it said that they could still come back and visit. Like you couldn't necessarily become a part of the Amish community or church, but you weren't shunned.
I gotcha.
You were still, like you still come back for Christmas.
Okay. But you're not a part of the community.
Exactly.
You can't live there. I gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
But you could still talk to people in the community.
I gotcha.
It wasn't as, restrictive.
Makes sense.
So we're going to jump back to Barbara Lehman.
That's the sister.
Magdalena Hochstetler's sister. She almost immediately pointed at Solomon as the murderer. She said that she saw Solomon on the property after Susan was found dead. The reason she recognized him was because of the color of the shirt he was wearing. John needed to get a horse and ride to town for help, and he was afraid to walk to the barn alone, knowing there was a murderer somewhere. So clearly, let's get Barbara to go walk with him.
So she's going to be a big
she's going to
protector.
help. So Barbara grabbed a lantern and walked with John to the barn. Back in the house, Barbara and Magdalena were waiting for John to come back with help when Barbara said she saw someone peek into the window. She ran towards the window with a stick to attack the person.
Barbara sounds like quite a character.
She's problematic. And she said that the face that she saw was Solomon's. News spread fast about the death of Susan, and neighbors started to gather at the Hochstetler farm. There was one man who saw someone standing by the fire at the sugar camp who was wearing a wide-brimmed hat. This hat looked like Solomon's hat, or pretty much every other hat that Amish men typically wear. So,
I was going to say, they dress similarly.
Understandably, a broken heart looks for someone to lay blame on. And at this time, John and Magdalena were not on good terms with Solomon. I didn't see any specific reason as to why or what happened. It could be because he was a heavy drinker and he wasn't a part of the Amish community church. I'm not sure. So Solomon didn't know about the accusations until after Susan's funeral.
Oh, no.
So, and there was a really weird practice at this time.
Of course there was.
Right. Some believed that if a murderer touched his victim, there would be some kind of sign or, quote, manifestation to show that they were the murderer.
Oh, my goodness.
Solomon begged for Susan to be exhumed to prove he was innocent, but the family refused.
Oh, my goodness.
Solomon's wife was adamant that he was home all night on March 4th, and it couldn't have been him. No one believed Solomon, and it's heavily assumed it's because he wasn't a member of the church.
Well, was his wife a member of the church? Was she baptized?
I am not sure, because from what I understood on that front is that you just couldn't be married in an Amish church if you weren't both Amish. I couldn't really tell what it meant on the other end of it. So I don't know if she was Amish, but they did live in the community, so maybe she was. Unsure.
I mean, but of course, women's voices weren't really heard.
Of course. 2 years later, in 1812, Solomon and his family moved to Walnut Creek Township in Holmes County, Ohio.
Is that where Laura Ingalls Wilder lived at one point?
I don't know.
Because she lived in Walnut Creek, a
Well, then
place called
probably.
Walnut Creek.
Probably. It's in Holmes County, Ohio. Don't know. Unsure.
Continue. Did you not ever read her books?
It's been a long, long, long time.
Okay, continue.
But yes. Everyone in their old town was against Solomon and just believed that he was cold-blooded enough to kill his own niece.
That is very sad.
Mm-hmm. It's really unfortunate. Around 1824, Magdalena Hochstetler died, and John decided to marry for a second time.
Did they have any other kids?
No.
Oh.
After some time, John moved his family as well, after he got remarried. And they moved to the edge of Mount Hope in Holmes County, Ohio. The brothers were only 9 miles away from one another, but they would never speak again.
Oh, did they know they were that far away from each other?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Because they were all still in the same community.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, it wasn't,
Yeah, gotcha.
All right.
That's very sad.
It's going to get more sad.
Oh, no.
So 50 years after the murder, a man in Wayne County, Ohio, was very ill and believed he was going to die. He insisted on seeing a minister before he died. Henry Yoder confessed that he was the one who murdered Susan Hochstetler.
Mm-hmm.
You might be thinking to yourself, who is Henry Yoder? And not Henry Otter, Henry Yoder. So news in a small town travels fast, and Solomon heard about the confession and immediately broke down and cried.
How old was Solomon now? Like 70?
His 70s. Mm-hmm. He said the only thing he wanted was for his brother to still be alive so he could go and see him and give him a handshake. John died just 2 years before the confession was made, and Solomon never got the chance to prove he was innocent to his brother.
Oh, I hate that he would have to prove it.
Yeah. Funny thing happened, though.
Nothing about this case is funny. Nothing.
Henry Yoder recovered from his illness and lived for a few more years.
Did it hang him?
So, who is Henry Yoder?
Who was Henry Yoder?
And why would he have killed Susan?
And why would he have killed a 7-month-old infant?
So we have the means and the opportunity already. We know how she died. We know that what the opportunity was, right? Because there was an empty time frame. We have that.
Yeah, but we don't know the why.
So we need a motive. Henry was madly in love with Barbara Lehman, but Barbara did not feel the same way about him.
So he killed her niece?
Hold on. So the scorned man needed an answer for why, and he decided that it was John and Magdalena who were to blame because they were the ones who put a wedge in between him and Barbara.
Oh, my word.
And he actually wasn't wrong. But either way.
And a 7-month-old baby was the reason for this. A 7-month-old baby was one that needed to pay the price for this.
So March 4th of 1810, it was a Sunday. And somehow Henry thought he would be able to talk to Barbara on that day. Until he saw Barbara walking to the sugar camp with her sister. Henry assumed that Barbara was avoiding him. He was outraged.
Sounds like he was pretty much of a wackadoo.
Sounds to me like he's the modern, what we call today an incel.
Wow.
Do you know what that is?
No.
Okay, so it's a term that's actually like a lot more people are using it now, especially when it comes to terms of true crime, and you'll understand why in a moment. So incel, the term comes from involuntary celibate, so incel.
Okay.
So it refers to self-identifying members of an online subculture based around the inability to find a romantic or sexual partner despite desiring one, a state that they describe as celibacy. So involuntary celibacy, incel. Essentially, incels believe that women owe them sex. Right.
I don't know what to do with that.
And that's why a lot of people, when you listen to some true crime podcasts or stuff like that, they will refer to the murderer or the perpetrator or the accused of that crime. They will say, well, it sounds like he was an incel. That's what that means. So maybe Henry might have been a bit of an incel. Not sure, though.
Sounds like a stalker.
Unsure.
I'm just saying
Stalker. Stalker is what I will say.
So he was outraged that Barbara could be avoiding him and that she didn't love him. And he took it all out on Susan. So if that was the case, why did Barbara point the finger at Solomon when there was somebody else who could be to blame? Right? Did Solomon and Henry look that much alike? Or was Barbara trying to protect Henry?
Did Barbara end up marrying Henry?
Not that I saw.
Okay, good, because that would have just been...
So Henry went on to say that he was wearing a hunting shirt that night like Solomon's. It's unclear if he did it intentionally or not. But because Henry confessed to a minister and the minister was a spiritual advisor, the minister could not testify in court.
No.
At this point...
Oh, and he was a part of the church, wasn't he?
At this point, almost everyone involved were dead. And they needed some sort of witness to verify some of the information. Solomon Hochstetler was forced into isolation from his family for over 50 years because he was wrongly accused.
Mm.
No one ever served official jail time for Susan's murder, and Henry Yoder was never prosecuted.
Well, that's just terrible.
Yeah. It's a lot. But
let me ask this. I mean, did Solomon, I mean, he had a wife. Did he have kids? I mean,
I will say, this case was very hard to find resources on. And I don't mean to speculate or to place blame anywhere. I think it might have been a situation that maybe the Amish community tried to suppress and not talk about. So there's not a lot of information that I could find. And especially with people not really loving Solomon. I think that could have been part of it too. But his wife was very adamant that he never had anything to do with this.
Yeah.
She moved with him. She stayed with him. She was very, very adamant.
But did he have kids?
I don't remember seeing anything about him having kids. And he lived outside of the Amish church. So,
So there wouldn't have been like a recording or a record
right.
of him and his lineage and such.
Exactly.
In the church.
And I mean, but that does lead me to believe it. Okay, so if there is another person who's out there, did Barbara just hate Solomon that much? What was her deal with Solomon?
Yeah.
Because Solomon was not her brother.
Yeah.
Solomon would have been her brother-in-law. But we don't know the reason why.
No, it wouldn't have been her brother-in-law. He wouldn't have been anything to her. He would have been her brother-in-law's brother.
Right.
So it wouldn't have been anything to her.
But why blame him?
Well, a confused mind latches onto what they can see, and if the dude has a hat on his shirt like Solomon's, you try to make something fit.
Yeah.
So that would make sense. That's just like, oh, that I saw that.
Just in my head, you would think he wouldn't kill his niece. It's his niece.
Well, she couldn't comprehend anybody wanting to do that, though. So seeing anything, if it walks like a duck, you know what I mean? And
if it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, doesn't mean it's a Solomon.
I know, but I mean,
I feel bad for Solomon.
I do too. I'm not saying
Solomon.
she was right, but I can understand in her confused state.
Like, the only thing that I could think of while I was reading this is that, like, no one served any official jail time, but freaking Barbara, you put Solomon in a prison himself for 50 years. This man was accused of killing his own niece
and ruined, the relationship between two brothers.
They didn't have a relationship really at that point, but there could have been some reconciliation for whatever the issue was. I mean, it's just.
Well, it didn't say they didn't have a relationship.
It said that they were not on good terms.
Oh, they already
that was why it was easy for them to latch on to Solomon, because they were not on good terms.
My bad.
It's fine. You weren't paying attention.
I was paying attention. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
I was paying.
But I mean, and then this man who's like, I'm on my deathbed, so I got some things I need to say.
I may as well go ahead and unload it now.
I think it's so funny that he ended up living longer. But what would have been even better is if he were prosecuted, but no one could prosecute him because he waited too long.
And that's sad.
I mean, and then it broke my heart because Solomon's like, I just wish that my brother were here.
Yeah. So that I could shake his hand and we could, that is sad.
And it just goes back to people who are wrongfully convicted for things that they didn't do. And I mean, it's just really sad and it's unfortunate. And it goes back to when we talked about before, police or detectives or whoever find who they want
And then make it fit.
And it seemed like this was kind of the Amish 1810 version of that. He's not in the Amish community.
Yeah.
He seems like, he would be related to the crime, so it wouldn't be random.
Yeah.
And
but what reason would he have?
Exactly.
What motive would he have?
Exactly. There's not one. There's no motive for that. It's ridiculous. And I don't understand it.
I know. Well, I don't understand how anybody could harm a baby.
Well,
either.
Of course. I can't fathom that. And I'm sorry, dude. Barbara didn't want you, so you got mad?
I mean, pick another girl.
I mean, maybe there weren't that many to pick from. Barbara didn't seem like a real peach to me.
I mean, just saying.
I don't know. But what goes back to it is Solomon said, dig her up. Like, I know that's not a real thing. Like, you can't touch someone you murdered and stuff happened. Like, I get that.
But let me show you. Let me show you.
But at that time, that was a belief.
Yeah.
So it means something for him to say, do this. I'm innocent. Do this. I'll prove it to you.
What will it take?
What have I got to do?
Yeah. I'll do this.
Then what also kind of makes me mad, if you think about it, they didn't do it because they didn't want to exhume her body, but yet he did not know that he was being framed for Susan's murder until after she was buried.
Right.
So it makes me wonder, did somebody kind of push along the burial so that he couldn't do that, so that he would be blamed?
Yeah.
Barbara?
I mean,
Barbara?
He would have offered to do it beforehand had he known.
I mean, it's just...
What did Barbara know beforehand? What did she really know beforehand?
And did she see Henry when she was leaving the house? Because if you think about it, well, I don't know. This would have been...
But she left it dark. No, the husband, no.
Left at nightfall, and they left 30 minutes after. So if you assume...
it would have been dark.
Yeah, because, daylight savings and everything like that, it would be dark. But, okay, so then if it were dark, how did you see Solomon? But you didn't see Henry walking up to the house. What? Oh, there's a guy in a similar hunting shirt to Solomon and a wide-brimmed Amish hat that every Amish man wears. It's him. Like, really?
I mean, I could understand. I mean, if he was a
medicine man. There's not that many fabrics to choose from.
And he had a medicine man headdress.
No.
That's the medicine man that I thought of when you said that. I mean, if he or shaman, witch doctor, whatever, medicine man, witch doctor, shaman, I think the same
This was a common thing in religious communities, was to have a witch doctor, because they believed in a lot of witchcraft back then, and they were concerned that, I'm dying, I must have been cursed, and so it was the witch doctor's job to come in and try and uncurse them.
But when you said that, I immediately thought, so if he had some sort of Aboriginal headdress, then I can totally see that. Yes,
no, he just looks like every other Amish guy,
right? But you see what I'm saying, though. If he had a specific,
right? But no,
not the case.
And I would imagine there's not very many fabrics to choose from for shirts at the time, especially if you were an Amish minimalist. Can't imagine you'd be looking for
homespun
hot pink Tommy Bahama as your hunting shirt. I don't think that's... I could be wrong. I don't know. Fashion back then. Let us know. But I don't think that that's the case. And you're pointing...
Most likely it was going to be a black, a
brown,
gray,
white.
A brown. Yeah.
Yeah. Something plain, something, and a wide brimmed hat, which everyone had. So for all you know, it could have been John. You don't know. I mean...
True facts. All true facts.
Freaking Henry. Oh, somebody doesn't want me, so I'm going to attack.
Let me ruin her life and her sister's life.
It's just terrible. Yeah, and then, you know, that's just 50 years. You, Solomon,
And a
just...
poor innocent baby. That's what I don't understand. Harming a poor innocent baby with all of her life ahead of her. Just a sweet baby. Whether she's, you know what? She may have been a horrible baby. I don't know. She was a baby.
Mm-hmm.
A baby.
I mean, I'm not at all victim blaming, not at all saying anything. I personally would not leave my child alone in my house from 8 to 2 a.m. But I mean, we don't know what was going on back then. We don't know.
And what the custom was.
But maybe that was the only house in the area. And so they were like, well, we can see the house from where we are. So maybe, but I don't know.
And maybe they could hear her if she cried and woke up.
That's a long way away.
How far did they say?
It was yards.
Yeah, I mean, if it's
away.
yards, and there wasn't like electrical hum of anything going on. You could hear the baby, but if you could hear the baby cry, surely they would have heard something going on, like the baby crying when somebody, took her out of her crib or something.
I just don't think it says 70 to 80 yards away. There's 3 feet in a yard. So you're talking over 100 feet away.
But think about a football field.
You're in a maple tree grove. That's going to cut some of that sound.
But think about a football field. 50 yards is half of a football field. So really, it's not
So
that
a football
far.
field and a quarter, depending.
Yeah, so really, it's not that far.
Still too far for me.
Well, but if you're really...
To not go back and at least be like, okay, I'll be here for an hour. I'll go back. I'll check. And then I'll come back. So if it's not that far, why did Barbara and Magdalena have to go?
Well, but if it's not that far, then why did they not, find a way to bring her? If it wasn't that far, then she wouldn't have been too far to carry either. My opinion.
I don't know all the things. Like I said, I've not had a baby. I don't know all the things, but
it's not that far.
It's just,
it makes me sad. It just makes me sad.
It's a sad story.
Any loss of life is sad, but especially
course.
when it's a baby, it just
it
makes me angry.
So many things that go along with that. It's very, very sad.
Yes.
Well, just a little kid.
Yeah.
Any of those things. Just when there's a loss of innocence, it just makes me angry.
It's a rough one. So now that we've depressed you today.
Sorry.
Yeah.
There are a few things that really make me angry, but that's one of them. Injustice, or injustice, whatever that is. But injustice against a kid.
It's very frustrating.
Yes, it makes me angry.
So we have a website. I don't know how to segue into that. Where you can find any and all ONUC information you're looking for. Just go to onenationundercrime.com. We are One Nation Under Crime on Facebook and Instagram, and at ONUC Pod on Twitter. If you love our podcast like we do, recommend us to everyone. And follow us on your preferred podcast platform. We are on every single one of them. And leave us a 5-star review wherever you're checking us out at. And leave a comment. Nothing below 5 stars. Don't have anything nice to say. Keep it to yourself. We're all just trying to support each other out in this world. We do have a Patreon. If you're interested in that, you can find it on our website, or you can just search for us on Patreon. And that's going to wrap it up for us this week.
There you go.
Sorry for
such a
today.
downer.
I'm trying to think of something great. Oh, I have a joke. It's horrible.
Oh, God.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Why didn't the toilet paper cross the road?
I don't know.
It got stuck in a crack.
Oh, dear.
I know, it was horrible.
So whether that made your week better or depressed it even more, there you go.
That's what I got. But bump. It was horrible. I know. Sorry.
What did the fish say when he hit the wall?
Damn.
So there you go.
Oh. What do you call a fish with no eye?
Can't.
I think that's all I have.
All right. Well, again, sorry if that made your week worse.
Made me laugh.
So thanks for listening this far. We appreciate it. We appreciate you joining us for this one.
And staying with us.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. We will see you here same time
Different crime.
next week. And remember that there isn't always liberty and justice for all. We will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.